We have 8 things for you that you should never ever do with your narcissist. Now, I say never ever. I suppose that you should never say never, but I can't think of any exceptions. Maybe you can. Number one is don't expect the narcissist to change. Narcissists are the way they are, I personally believe, because they have an inherent, I suppose it's a genetic propensity toward that particular type of behavior. That is controlling, being self-centered, having to be on top all the time, every time, requiring admiration. They have a need for this thing called supply. And supply, as I understand it, is nothing more than a craving to boost their own ego. So that is something that narcissists are going to do until the day they die. Unless they have a serious brain injury, they're going to be just the way they are with very few modifications, almost no changes. And if you expect them to change, you're just going to be disappointed. And if you take the effort to make them change, you're going to find yourself to be very disappointed. Now, I was going to say a friend, but I've got these people, let's put it that way, quote, friend, unquote, in my life, friends in my life, who are obviously narcissistic. And there's one individual in particular that he likes to boast openly about when people try to make him change. He told me once when he was much younger that I think of a guy who turned out to be his brother-in-law at the time. His future brother-in-law was not real happy with this guy dating his I think it was the guy's sister, and maybe his sister-in-law. I can't remember what the relationship was, but the age disparity was like, I don't know, 10 years. That may be a little high, but it was like 10 years. And this guy grabbed my narcissist by the lapel of his shirt or by his neck and slammed him against the wall, and he let him know in no uncertain terms he was to leave this young high school girl alone because this guy was in his 20s. And the narcissist boasted about that. What is going to get somebody to change? I mean, this guy slamming him against the wall was not going to get him to change. All right, so he went through with it. He wound up marrying this young woman, and there were times where she tried the same strategy. This is years later, but she'd get in his face and yell at him, and no effect whatsoever. It doesn't work. If anything, it just encourages them because they see that anger, they see that rage, they see that you are trying to make them change, and in their mind, that is affirming to them that they are affecting you. They are controlling you because they are triggering you. So don't expect them to change. If you can get a narcissist to change, please let me know about it. Because I'm guessing you're the first person in human history. It's something akin to going to the moon. Number 2 is this: don't obsess. Once you get entrapped with a narcissist, you start to go back and think, and I know I've done this a couple times. You go back, and as you think, you see those red flags that you didn't see before, but now they're very obvious, and you kind of beat on yourself. At least I do. You just beat on yourself for being so dumb, for being so gullible, for being so naive to having fallen for this in the first place. I mean, you were just trying to be a good friend, right? You had fallen for the love bombing or for the grooming in some cases. You had fallen for it. And now you're thinking, how stupid could I be? Well, the question, that answer is you're as stupid as everybody else because everybody falls for this with very few exceptions. But you got to keep in mind while you're obsessing over this abuse from a narcissist, the way that he or she entrapped you, you got to keep in mind that they chose you for a particular reason. They picked you out of the crowd, so to speak, because you have particular traits that the narcissist considered to be exploitable. And was it random? I don't know that a narcissist ever chooses a victim randomly. Now, it could be opportunity, a crime of opportunity. I don't know that it's a crime, but it's an offensive opportunity that you just happen to be in this person's life at that point in time. Okay, to that extent, maybe so. But what we're saying is while you're obsessing over this, you got to keep in mind that there is some positive trait or group of traits about you that the narcissist observed that encouraged him or her to take advantage of you. So in a sense, it's a compliment. Now, it's a very expensive compliment, and it's a painful compliment, and it comes with some mental baggage, and so we ruminate. We obsess over what the narcissist did. I'm not saying you should forget it. I think I talked about this in a video a couple days ago. No, never forget. Always learn from these types of experiences, but don't obsess over it. Number 3 is don't expect them to own up. We could go on and say don't expect them to grow up, but they're not going to do it. My experience is that virtually every narcissist, and I mentioned this before, we'll mention it again, but every narcissist is an 11-year-old. Now, there's no college studies that I've ever seen that validate that. No empirical studies out there. That's just my life's experience. As I push 70 years old, as I mentioned, I've learned a thing or two, and my experience with narcissists and people with narcissistic characteristics is emotionally, they make it to about age 11, and they hit a ceiling. They hit a glass ceiling. Now, they may be as old as I am. They could be in their 60s and 70s, but they're still emotional 11-year-olds. That is what I've observed. So don't expect them to grow up, and because of that, don't expect them to own up. When I say don't expect them to own up, what I'm saying is they never take responsibility for anything unless it's praiseworthy. If something is done wrong and they did it, it wasn't their fault. Or if they didn't do it, it's all a big misunderstanding. Number 4 is no disclosure. So things you don't do with a narcissist is you don't disclose anything that you don't absolutely positively have to. I'm trying to think of some circumstances in which a narcissist would necessarily, or not a narcissist, but the victim of a narcissist would necessarily have to disclose personal information. So I suppose if there's a family situation, there's a court situation where you are ordered by a court of law to disclose information, there could be those rare things like that. But your business is not his or her business. Now, everybody knows that, right? As soon as I say it, the thought that came to my mind, why am I even saying this? You know this. Everyone knows it. I knew it, but I did it anyhow. Because this was my quote, friend, unquote. We were just having conversation. I was just talking about, my friends, my family, whatever. What I didn't know that what my narcissist was doing was he was cataloging that information, and I think narcissists don't do this. Well, maybe they do it on purpose. I was going to say they don't do it on purpose. I think it just comes automatically, but I don't know. Maybe they do it on purpose. But he was taking this information and storing it away in his mental database, his neurological database, for future reference to use against me. So don't disclose anything, because if you say that you happen to talk to your friend so-and-so in just a very routine conversation, what your narcissist is storing in his or her brain is that so-and-so is your friend, and so-and-so therefore is a potential flying monkey that he or she can access later. So what the narcissist may very well be thinking is, well, you're having this conversation that just talking. To him or her, or to the narcissist, he is thinking or she is thinking, how can I access this person so I can win them over to my side? Yeah, they think in terms of us versus them. Win them over to my side so I can use this person. I can fracture the relationship between these two people, and I can use this person to my advantage and against this person when the time comes. Don't disclose anything. Of course, the challenge is if you don't know the person's a narcissist, you don't know. So you got to be very careful. I mean, not to the point of paranoid where you think everyone is a potential narcissist. By the way, everybody does have some narcissistic traits. But where do you draw the line? Well, just use a little bit of common sense. That's the best thing I could tell you. Don't tell all your personal information, things like who your friends are, which doesn't seem like a big deal, right? Maybe you could talk about people without using their names sometimes. That if you got to talk, be careful. But keep this point in mind. When you tell one person anything, doesn't matter who the person is, but if you tell one person anything, just assume you told the entire world. You told everyone on the planet. Number 5 is don't play their games. Narcissists play games. To them, it's a contest. To them, it's kind of like playing chess. I don't know if there's an 11-year-old version of chess or not. I don't think there is, but these people tend to have, they can be highly intelligent. Most of them that I've encountered are average intelligence, maybe a little bit lower. But some of them are extremely intelligent. But they have the emotional maturity of an 11-year-old, in my opinion. That's my life's observation. I'm pushing 70 years old. I've had like nearly 7 decades of experience, particularly with narcissists. And, I've learned a thing or two, and I'm sharing with you what I've learned. And what I've learned is they tend to be emotional children. It's like they hit 11 years old and they just got stuck. I mean, their body grew up, sometimes their intellect grew up, sometimes not. But emotionally, they're still children. They're still egocentric. That is, to some extent, that's good and healthy for an 11-year-old, just for self-protection. They have to be able to take care of themselves in the real world. But, okay, you've learned your lessons and now you mature. Not so with a narcissist, so the only way you can deal with that is understand that they're playing these games. They're playing these social games. They're playing games where they see themselves as a key player among social groups. They try to influence people. Everything is a game. They're social climbers often. They're not very good at it, but sometimes they are extremely good at it. I know one narcissist, quote, narcissist, who is on, unquote, who is on Facebook. This guy's got thousands of friends, very social, manipulating people. I know another guy who's a narcissist. He can't go on Facebook because if he does, people find out where he is, and they'll send the authorities after him. But nonetheless, he's very social. He's just not on Facebook. He's got. I used to go places with this guy, and wherever you go, he would know people, and people would recognize him and talk to him. So you need to understand that they play social games, and you need to, this is my opinion based on my life's laboratory experience, is you just can't play those games. Now, when I was putting together my notes for this, I put a little side note, don't play their games, play your own games. And then I got thinking about it, nah, don't play your own games, don't play any games at all. Playing your own games is what an 11-year-old does. So you make your own decision. Do you have games that you play? I prefer not to play games with people. I just don't play games at all. Okay, number 6, 7, and 8 we mentioned in another video, but I added these because they're on topic. Number 6 is don't access your anger. Now, if you watched my other videos, you know that what we said about this is there is nothing a narcissist loves any more than to trigger somebody's emotional response, which is typically anger. The reason they do that is because it boosts their ego, and that's what the narcissist is all about. His substance of choice is his ego. Whatever it is that boosts his ego or her ego, that's what he's after. And when you get angry, okay, you're venting. You've had it with this guy. You grabbed him by the collar and you're slamming him against the wall. You're yelling at him. You're getting into his or her face. Yeah, you feel lots better, but guess what? So does he or she. They're having a blast. They're thinking so. And when you're done, they're going to go brag about it. How that they triggered you. So, that's not the avenue you take. That's not my opinion, that's not the direction you go. Number 7 is do not argue with these people. Now, I've talked about this a lot in other videos, so I'm just going to mention it quickly here, but if somebody were to throw an object at you, say a softball right now, right this very moment, somebody walked in, they got a softball, and they just toss it to you. What are you going to do without thinking? Chances are you're going to raise your hand, try to catch it. Or you're going to try to bat it away. Unless your hands are occupied, then you probably get mad. But that's human response. And when somebody asks us a question, when somebody wants to argue with us, oh, I got to say this, real important. There are two reasons why people ask questions. Number one is because they want an answer. Number two is they want an argument. When a narcissist asks a question, almost always he wants an argument or she wants an argument of some kind. So the point, number 7, is this: just don't argue with these people, because all they're wanting is an argument. They're wanting to engage you. Now, sometimes a narcissist may say, do you know what time it is? That is a question that is eliciting an answer. They just want to know what time it is. I would probably tell the narcissist what time it is, but if I knew the narcissist was a narcissist and this is somebody who had abused me in the past and I absolutely positively knew it, I wouldn't tell him anything. I wouldn't even give him the time of day, literally, because I'm just encouraging him or her. I'm just feeding their ego. But the point is, when somebody throws a ball at you, you don't have to catch it. You don't have to catch it. And when somebody asks you a question, an argumentative question, you do not have to answer it. I mean, even if it's a traffic cop, I typically try to cooperate with police whenever I can. But my understanding is, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is you've got a constitutional right not to answer questions. I mean, some questions you got to answer. You got to identify yourself, I think, ask your lawyer, I don't know. But you don't have to argue. You don't have to answer questions from narcissists. Try it. Just don't argue with them. Number 8 is what I call deny supply. So these are the 8 things you don't do with a narcissist. And there are so many ways. There are so many ways that a narcissist takes supply from you. Well, I think I'll just do a video on that because there's so many of them. But what they are doing is they are transferring that sense of worth from you to them. So you have less value. You have a sense of, well, you've been devalued. You've been put down in a figurative but yet very literal sense, if you know what I mean. You have been put down. You've been deflated, and they have been inflated, their ego. Don't supply them. Well, how do you not supply them? The best way to not supply a narcissist, in my opinion, is whenever possible. Underscore that, whenever possible. But whenever possible, stay away from them. Go gray rock, 100%. Ghosting, if possible. It's not as if they have died, but it's as if they were never born. You never knew the person, never saw them, don't know their name. No idea who they are. That, other than the memories for learning purposes, that, in my opinion, is the one key thing that you do not do with a narcissist, and that is don't give them supply. And the way you don't give them supply is you don't have anything to do with them. Go gray rock. See those 2 rectangles on the screen if you want our conversation to continue. Let's keep talking. All you got to do is click on one of those 2 rectangles, but if not, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see y'all next time.